today we're going to talk about the different welds that go into a groove. And so we're just going to start. The first weld we have is going to be the root. So we have two pieces of plate here or pipe. This is our parent material. The first weld we have in there is what we call the root. That first weld is going to join those two pieces of parent material, and it'll actually be solid like that. Now this root can actually be measured the reinforcement it has. So what we would do, depending on what code and what application this is, the reinforcement would be the distance from this parent material to the end of the reinforcement, which means how much it pushed through. They can actually measure that. So for example, it might be a minimum of an 1/8" reinforcement, and you can say a maximum of an 1/8", no more than an 1/8, but no less than flush. So it's very possible you have that on the code. It just depends on what code you're working to. But it can be measured, the reinforcement. Root holds both of those parent materials together. That's the first weld we make in groove. The next weld we make is called the hot pass. All it does is reinforce that root, and it keeps us a good flat place to start our next welds. So this is a hot pass. It just goes right on top of the root. And you can have, depending on what process you're doing, if it's stick, we'll do the only time. Sometimes we would run a 60-10 root and possibly switch to 70-18 for a hot pass. If it's TIG, you're going to do the same stuff. If it's flexible, we're going to use the same stuff. Most of the time, we use the same exact filler metal unless it's stick. The next passes are going to be called the intermediate passes, or a lot of times, welder term, we call them the filler passes. It does just that. It's going to fill up this weld joint to where it's almost flush. Depending on how thick this weld joint is, depending on what the weld procedure tells you to do, we're going to have several filler passes typically. So we can either do filler passes like this, where we stack stringers, or it's possible that we have a wide weave. Doesn't matter, we just want those fillers almost flush. You can see we came up here almost flush to the top of that parent material. And again, those welds are just to fill up that. Can't have any impurities in there. So they got to be good quality welds, but we're just going to burn into the edge of the plate or parent material and get it filled up. Then our last welds we're going to make are called the cap. Might call it the face of the joint. And all this is going to do is bridge these two parent materials together, and this is going to be our final welds on this. Again, we can either do stringer welds all the way across there, or it's possible it could be a weave. Same thing, they can measure the reinforcement on this depending on what code it is. And it would be from the top of the plate to the top of the reinforcement. It can have a minimum requirement of flush, or it can have a maximum requirement of say an 1/8 inch. And so that's basically it for the different welds that go to a groove. Now this can be a groove on a pipe, a plate, different setups, different joint designs. The welds we're going to have is a root, hot pass, intermediate fillers, and then the cap with the face. And that's it for welds in a groove.